Hello everyone, my name is Ark and welcome back to another Marvel Legends review. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at Jean Grey, the Phoenix Force. Honestly, this one was a great one to actually get because it is one of the newer female bodies where it has the actual app crunch in it. So it is nice to actually have her here. I was able to get her on Big Bad Toy Store at the $35 range when it was initially priced at that, and then it was changed later down the line to $50. So I have heard that there's a lot of these ones in Target for like $35 retail because of a weird glitch in their system, but did not quote me on that. I've just been hearing that in terms of word of mouth. So without further ado, let's take her out and see how she looks. Alright, so here we have Jean Grey as the Phoenix, or mostly just Jean Grey right now. So, overall, first impressions, she looks pretty darn good, and I gotta say, I like it already. I really like the dark green that she has going on. So she stands at a whopping 6 inches, 6.25 inches to the very top of the hair. And just to show a very short comparison between the Warbird and the Phoenix, there are a couple notable differences, especially on the chest and even the legs as well. The chest is a completely different sculpt. That's something to note. Of course, the faces are going to be different. Captain Marvel has slightly smaller heads as compared to Jean Grey, which might make it look a little bit more disproportionate, especially on camera. You can kind of see there's a little bit less proportion with Jean Grey in general. The actual thigh swivels for Captain Marvel, they're lower down the actual thighs, but with Jean Grey, they're really high up on the thighs, which I think works a lot better here than it does here, for sure. That's just me, though. But overall, they're pretty much very nearly the exact same mold from the looks of it, although there is a little bit more curvature with Jean Grey in general, which I kind of like a little bit, especially on the waist. The waist is slightly smaller with Jean Grey, which is good, while they are using sort of like the same technology and sort of body parts. They're changing it here and there, but it seems that the arms are completely reused, which for Marvel Legends, it is usual that they do that. They reused a bunch of different parts, but again, in terms of everything else, it looks really nice. Now, something to note is like the boobs really do protrude out. Just something to note if you are not too much of a fan of that. But overall, it looks really nice. I really like the yellow that they used. While it's not a really nice gold, it's a really glossy metallic yellow, which looks pretty decent. Although I do think it does contrast a little bit too much with the dark green. If they would have used a light green for the rest of the suit, I think it would have gone a little bit better. But that's just me in terms of how it would work. For example, the green has a lot more blue than it would a yellow, so it kind of contrasts with a little bit too much. And also, the emblem of the Phoenix itself is a different gold compared to the actual other parts of the suit. Very similar to the gold in the Captain Marvel one for the lightning bolt logo, but again, just stuff to note. Overall, very simplistic in terms of the paint applications, nothing too extravagant. Really nice job on the actual logo. The hair does have some slight shading here and there, not too much, but it is noticeable, especially up close when you have the figure. Articulation, very simple. It is on a double ball peg, which does make the most sense, especially for Marvel Legends. So there is a weird cut at the neck. Don't know why that is a thing, because Captain Marvel doesn't have that, but apparently this one does. So if that bothers you, that's going to be an issue. So double ball peg for this one from the looks of it. You can get about that much range looking downward, almost no range looking forward or upwards, and a little bit of side-to-side action. But this is the wind hair swept sculpt. I cannot speak today, but yeah, looks really nice overall. I like it. Arms, you can get them up about that far with the joints that it has, sort of like the ratcheted joints, which is really nice. Very good pose, especially for the ones that you're supposed to recreate with this figure overall. Of course, you do have the 360 rotation, bicep swivel, which is the usual, double jointed elbow, which works pretty nice, especially as we're used to some other Marvel Legends figures. It looks really nice. And of course, we have the hand hinge for this as a whole, which again is really nice. For the upper ab crunch, not much movement all the way forward, a little bit on the back though, so you can definitely move it back for sure, although you're going to get sort of like some scoliosis on there. Not saying that it's bad, it is. Scoliosis is a very big issue that has a lot of remedies nowadays. I don't know if I'm going to leave that in. But again, not much movement in terms of going forward, unless you actually use the waist joint. But again, sometimes you have these sections that kind of just stick out a little bit too much, but you could probably hide this with the actual belt if you wanted to, which doesn't look bad overall. So going down that far with the waist joint and going backwards extravagantly with both the upper chest and the waist joint. That's a good amount of range going backwards, not so much forwards though. And of course, the splits in terms of that, it's okay. Not the greatest, of course. Kicking forward about that far. You can definitely extend it even further if you wanted to, but it is going to go to the side if you do that. And kicking backwards is almost non-existent because she does have hard plastic butt cheeks. So that's one thing. We do have the thigh swivel, double jointed knee, which is usually common for Marvel Legends from the looks of it, and a hinge foot with a slight pivot to the sides, of course. Very nice. And of course, for the foot, you can go forward that far and backwards this far, which is, again, typical. No toe hinge, which does suck for female figures. But overall, very similar articulation to the Warbird Captain Marvel, which was expected. I feel like this female model is really a benefit for especially the future figures, because we are going to be getting more later down the line. But yeah, I do like this figure so far. So let's take a look at some of the accessories that she comes with, just to finish it off from there. Alright, so here is pretty much the main attraction of this entire figure and its whole packaging, and that is the Phoenix stand that she comes with. I gotta say, it was a lot more complicated than it needed to be in terms of assembling the actual stand in itself. Although I really do like the color scheme that it has going on, especially with like the bird and the actual flames and everything. And the way that you actually stand the figure in there is good as well, especially with the second head sculpt that we'll take a look at in a minute. And also, it does come with two fizz hands, of course, because every Marvel Legends needs to come with one, although I know some of them don't. But in terms of the head sculpt, it looks really nice as well. Very nicely detailed and painted. Although there is sort of like the uncanny valley where it's somewhat real, a hyper realism, but still comic book feel, which works fine. It's just some people might be put off by it, especially with like the beauty that we have here with Captain Marvel being super like comic book like, while having some realistic elements. This is more so on the realism spectrum than anything so far. So again, very nicely sculpted. I like it. Very good. Very nice shading I can't speak. Very nice shading on the hair, although there's a big sort of like seam gap, which is fine, honestly. Doesn't You won't really look at it most of the time. This is the main pose that you would probably have with the actual stand. But speaking of the stand, we have this beautiful burb right here. Very glowy, very glossy. Does look really nice. The way to attach it is definitely odd. And they do make the actual stand soft enough for you to actually attach it, which is nice. I thought that I was going to struggle with it, so some of the parts are actually soft plastic. The bird itself is a soft plastic-ish, but it definitely is more hard plastic than anything, at least for the solid parts. The actual tips of the wings are more flexible, so still do be careful in terms of dropping it if you ever do drop it. But in terms of the actual attachment of the thing, there are two separate pieces for the base that you have to connect together, and then you have to attach a base at the bottom to sort of keep them in place. Very simple. This piece right here is pretty much one section, and then this is the other section right here, like 1 and 2, just to show that real quick. And then to attach the burb, you just have to sort of plant it right here in the middle of the big section. I'm trying to show it, but I'm not really showing it. So plant it right in the middle of the big section, which is somewhat easy, but some people might have issues with it. At that point, just kind of take your time. Really just take your time about it. Don't stress out too much about it. And then, of course, there is the foot hole, the foot peg, or the foot, for you to attach the foot. You do need to have the sort of the sculpt or the actual figure sort of leaning forward a little bit and then backwards again, just to keep that whole pose for the figure. I cannot speak today, Jesus. So very nice overall. I really do like it. It's a pretty fine figure, although leading to my final thoughts, I do not think it's worth the $50. It's a regular basic Marvel Legends that comes with just a basic head and a set of fists, which is the most common thing that they can do. This is the bare minimum that they can do for any type of figure. So it really depends, up to you, if you think the actual stand, like the Phoenix, is worth those extra $25. If you're able to find it at $35, I think that is more than reasonable. So I'm going to give this one 2 different grades. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10 if you're able to find it at $35, but I'm also going to give it a 7 out of 10 if you are not able to find it under $50, because I don't think it's a $50 figure, even with the stand behind it, but I do think it is worth $35 because the stand should not be that much extra, really. But yeah, that's pretty much all the time I have for you guys today. Let me know what you guys think about this figure down in the comments below. I would love to hear it. Do you have it? Do you not have it? Have you enjoyed it if you do have it? All that sort of stuff. But besides that, I will see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.